Night had already swallowed the forest when Ahil's motorcycle stopped at the edge of Duskwood, a place villagers avoided after sunset. He wasn't afraid, just desperate. His sister, Zarya, had disappeared 3 days ago, and every trail pointed to this forgotten forest whispered about in old stories. At the entrance stood a broken wooden signboard with carved letters, "Silence is alive here." The wind didn't blow, the leaves didn't rustle, even Ahil's own breath felt too loud. He took a trembling step inside. The deeper he went, the more unnatural the quiet became. No insects, no animals, not even the sounds of his footsteps. It felt as if someone had stolen every vibration from the world, yet he sensed something following him, something that breathed in the silence itself. After an hour of wandering, he saw a faint glow ahead. A single lantern hung from the branch of a dead tree. The glass wasn't glowing from fire. Instead, swirling inside it was a moving shadow, like black smoke trapped in a bottle. Carved on its handle were 3 words: "Don't let go." As Ahil touched it, the world around him shifted. The trees straightened like soldiers, the air turned colder, and suddenly sound returned. But not the sound he wanted. He heard whispers, faint and trembling, like the last breaths of dying people. They came from everywhere, and every whisper repeated the same thing: "He is awake." Ahil lifted the lantern high. The shadow inside curled like it recognized him. Something cracked in the darkness ahead, like a bone snapping. Then a pair of pale eyes opened between the trees, motionless, wide, unblinking. Ahil felt his heart freeze. Those were not human eyes, and they were staring at the lantern he held. The creature slowly stepped into the weak glow. Its body was tall, thin, wrapped in torn, ancient cloth, as if it had been buried long ago. But its face looked like Zarya's, or almost like Zarya's, broken, twisted, smiling too wide. "Return the lantern," the creature whispered in a voice that wasn't human, "or she becomes silence forever." Ahil's grip tightened. The lantern vibrated, the shadow inside slamming against the glass like it wanted to escape. The creature lunged, but the lantern's glow expanded, forming a circle around him. The whispers stopped. The forest froze again. And suddenly, he heard Zarya's real voice. "Ahil, don't trust the lantern." He looked around wildly. Her voice came from the trees. No, inside his head, or maybe the lantern. The creature moved closer, placing its cold, dead hand on his shoulder. "You have one choice: break the lantern or break her fate." The shadow inside the lantern began forming a face, Zarya's face, crying silently. Ahil realized something horrifying. Both voices were Zarya. One was calling for help, one was begging him to stop, but only one was real. The lantern flickered, the creature's smile widened. The forest leaned in, waiting. Ahil lifted the lantern over a rock. He had 3 seconds to decide. One choice would save Zarya, the other would doom them both. And in Duskwood, silence always takes what you choose wrong. As the lantern trembled in his hands, the forest whispered one last time: "Choose wisely. She only gets one ending." Ahil's fingers trembled around the lantern. The swirling shadow inside had begun to form Zarya's face, her eyes wet, her lips mouthing a silent plea. The creature, tall, wrapped in decayed cloth, leaned closer with that twisted smile, its pale eyes reflecting the lantern's glow like 2 dead moons. "Break it," the creature whispered. "Set her free." But the forest growled no. Not aloud, not in sound, but in vibration, like the trees were warning him. Isle closed his eyes. He remembered Zaria's laugh, her voice when she teased him, the way she used to call him by. That voice could never sound twisted or fearful. He opened his eyes again. The voice begging him to break the lantern had been scared. The voice warning him not to trust it had been calm. Zaria, even in fear, always spoke with strange courage. Isle lowered the lantern. Instantly, the creature's face cracked like dry clay. A deep, ancient growl escaped its chest. "You choose wrong," it hissed. The forest trembled, leaves turned to ash, roots slithered like snakes. The lantern burned cold in Isle's hand, and the shadow inside subtly expanded, stretching its fingers along the glass. Zaria's voice returned, but now it echoed from behind the creature. "Isle, run!" He spun around. In the distance, between the skeletal trees, stood a faint silhouette. Someone tied to a crooked wooden post. Someone the same height as Zaria. Someone struggling weakly. His heart hammered. "Zaria?" The creature moved with unnatural speed, blocking his view. "You look for her?" It laughed quietly. "Then follow, if you dare." The creature lifted its hand, its fingers elongated, sharp as bone knives. It pointed towards a narrow black path winding between dead trees. The lantern path. Isle had heard about it once, in an old story his grandmother used to tell. A path where the forest tests your truth, where you meet things that look like the people you love, but are not them. "You want her back?" the creature hissed. "Walk the silent path, alone." Isle swallowed the fear climbing his throat. He tightened his grip on the lantern. The shadow inside the lantern whispered, "Don't go." But the real Zaria's voice, weak, fading, echoed again from afar ahead. "Bye, I'm here." He stepped forward. The forest opened its mouth like a hungry beast. Inside the lantern path. The moment Isle entered, sound vanished again. Not the soft, empty silence from before. This was suffocating, violent, a silence that crushed your chest and crawled into your mind. The path twisted like it was alive. Each step felt heavier. Every time the lantern flickered, shadows along the trees twitched like they were breathing. Then, something walked beside him. He didn't see it, he only felt it, cold, slow, matching his footsteps. He turned the lantern towards the darkness. A face formed, inches from his own. Zaria. But not tied, not hurt, not weak. This one was smiling, a slow, unnatural, knowing smile. "Isle," she whispered without moving her lips, "you came for me." He stepped back. "You're not Zaria." The thing blinked slowly, the smile stretching wider. "Break the lantern," it said softly, "or I will break you." The real Zaria's voice came again, faint, desperate, echoing from far ahead. "Isle, don't stop. It's not me. Keep walking." He turned and ran, ignoring the false Zaria behind him, its limbs bending at impossible angles. The lantern pulsed, pushing the creature back, but the path ahead was changing, closing, breathing. The forest didn't want him to reach the real Zaria. And then he reached a clearing. A stone platform stood in the center, ancient symbols carved into the surface. Tied to the center of the platform was Zaria. Her head lifted weakly. "Bye, you came." Isle stepped forward, relief hitting him like a wave. But before he could reach her, something rose behind her. Not a creature, not a ghost, something older. A hooded figure made of moving shadows.
Its voice roared inside Isle's skull. Put the lantern on the altar, and she lives. Isle's hands froze. Behind him, the fake Zarya whispered, "Do it." The trees whispered, "Choose." The lantern whispered, "It's a trap." And the real Zarya cried softly, "Please, save me." Isle stepped forward towards the altar. He lifted the lantern, and the shadow inside the lantern spoke a full sentence for the first time. "If he takes me out, you will lose her forever." Isle froze. 2 Zaryas, 2 choices, 1 chance, and a question that burned through his mind. Who is the real prisoner here, Zarya or the shadow inside the lantern? The forest waited, the silence leaned closer, and Isle made his next move.
Ahil stood in the clearing, the coldness of the forest gripping his bones. The altar was carved from black stone, older than any language he knew. Zarya lay tied in the center, her wrists bruised, her face pale, her breath faint like she was fading out of the world. Behind her, the hooded shadow being rose like smoke taking human form. "Place the lantern on the altar," it commanded, its voice not spoken but forced into his mind, making his skull throb. The false Zarya moved beside Ahil, her face twitching, her smile cracking like broken glass. "Do it, Pai," she whispered. Her voice sounded almost real now, too real. Ahil gripped the lantern tighter. "Zarya, tell me one thing only you would know," he said, voice trembling. The real Zarya lifted her head weakly, her eyes barely open. "Your birthday, June 11, she whispered. Ahil's heart skipped. She was right. But then the shadow inside the lantern spoke again, clearer than ever. "That is not real Zarya. That creature can read your memories." The hooded figure hissed, and the forest darkened like night closing in. Ahil shook his head. "What are you? Why should I trust you?" The shadow inside the lantern pressed its face against the glass, sad, tired, human. "Because I was trapped here long before you were born." Ahil's breath froze. The hooded creature snapped its fingers, and the false Zarya's bones cracked, her body twisting into a monstrous shape, long arms, distorted jaw, hollow face, a shape made of the forest's silence. "You waste time," the hooded creature growled. "Put the lantern down, or she becomes one of us." Zarya screamed weakly as black roots began crawling up her legs, pulling her deeper into the stone. Ahil lunged forward. The false creature leaped at him, and the lantern burst with shadow light, throwing both of them back. The hooded figure roared, the trees bending backward like they were bowing in fear. Ahil lay on the ground, the lantern beside him, flickering violently. Inside it, the shadow spoke softly. "Listen, Ahil. Zarya is not the only prisoner here. This forest, Duskwood, feeds on choices. Wrong decisions grow it stronger, right ones weaken it." Ahil struggled to stand. "How do I save her?" The shadow inside the lantern paused, then whispered, "You must place the lantern on the altar, but not to free her, to free me." Ahil's heart pounded. "And then what about Zarya?" The lantern's shadow looked away. "I can help you save her, but if I remain trapped, she dies tonight." Ahil's throat tightened. The hooded figure extended its long skeletal hand. "Choose, mortal." Zarya screamed again, the black roots reaching her chest now. Ahil stepped toward the altar, but then Zarya's real voice, weak but certain, echoed, "Bai, don't trust anything, not even the lantern, not even me. Trust only your heart." The forest fell dead silent. The hooded figure froze, the false Zarya hissed, the lantern's shadow stiffened. Ahil's eyes widened. Zarya, she had never said such words before, not even as a child. It wasn't a clue, it wasn't a trick, it was her soul speaking. He knew exactly what she meant. Slowly, very slowly, Ahil stepped forward and did something none of them expected. He placed the lantern on the altar, but didn't let go. The hooded creature screamed, the forest shook, the altar glowed, Zarya gasped. The lantern's shadow cried out, "What are you doing?" Ahil gritted his teeth. "I'm choosing both of you, and none of your rules." The lantern cracked, light burst through it like sunlight tearing through a storm. The hooded figure lunged, but the false creature blocked it, screeching as its body melted away. The forest roared like a dying beast. Zarya's rope snapped. She fell into Ahil's arms, trembling but alive. The lantern exploded into pure white light, and the shadow inside stepped out as a human figure, weak but free. A young woman with the same face as Zarya, but her eyes were different, ancient, sorrowful. "Thank you," she whispered, "but now you must run." The trees howled as the hooded figure rose in rage, its true form emerging, towering, monstrous, made of thousands of trapped souls. Ahil lifted Zarya. The lantern girl pointed at a hidden path. "Hurry, before the forest closes." Ahil ran, the forest twisted, the monster roared, and behind him, the lantern girl stayed behind to face the monster alone. But as Ahil looked back, he realized something terrifying. The lantern girl didn't free herself, someone else let her out, and the forest wanted that person back. Ahil ran through the twisting roots with Zarya in his arms, the forest groaning like a wounded giant behind him. Every tree bent inward like ribs of a massive beast trying to trap them inside its closing chest. The path the lantern girl showed shimmered faintly, as if fighting against the darkness swallowing it. Zarya clung to him weakly. "Bai, who was she?" Ahil shook his head. "I don't know, but she saved us." A roar exploded behind them so deep it rattled the ground under their feet. The hooded monster, the true ruler of Duskwood, had shed its false form. Now it towered above the trees, a swirling mass of shadows, faces, and stolen souls. Its voice thundered through the earth. "Return what you took." Ahil ran faster, but the forest moved with the monster. The ground rose, branches sharpened like spears, roots curled around their legs like living snakes. Zarya gasped as one root scraped her ankle and left a black burn. The mark pulsed, glowing faintly with the same cursed symbols from the altar. "Ahil, it's pulling me back." Ahil swallowed panic and lifted her higher. "No, not again. I'm not losing you." Ahead, the hidden path began dissolving, turning transparent like smoke thinning in sunlight. He ran harder. Behind them, the lantern girl's voice echoed, weak, strained, fighting. "Ahil, don't stop. I can't hold it much longer." But her voice faded and then ended abruptly. A cold silence fell, the kind of silence that felt like someone watching from right behind your neck. Ahil slowed. The invisible pressure on his back was so heavy he nearly collapsed. Then Zarya's voice changed. "Ahil," she whispered. He froze. Her voice was layered now, her real tone buried under something deeper, older. He slowly looked down. Zarya's eyes had turned black, not fully, just the edges, but enough to tell the truth. The forest was inside her. "Bai," she whispered, trembling. It's trying to speak through me." Ahil crushed her to his chest. "No, ignore it." Zarya shook violently, her voice suddenly shifting. "Stop running." It wasn't her voice. It wasn't human. The monster behind them grew louder, closer. Ahil forced his legs forward. "Fight it, Zarya. Stay with me." She screamed, clutching her head. "Bai, please, help. It's inside my mind. It's showing me things, showing me her." Ahil's blood ran cold. The lantern girl? Zarya nodded, shaking. It's showing me her memories. She wasn't the first one. There were others. Hundreds. All trapped. All replaced. Ahil stopped breathing for a moment. What do you mean, replaced? Zarya looked up at him with hollow fear. The forest doesn't just eat people, it copies them. A tree ahead groaned as faces appeared on its bark, faces crying silently, reaching out. Zarya continued, voice breaking. That girl? She wasn't the first Zarya. Ahil's heart plummeted. What? Then Zarya whispered the sentence that shattered him. Before I was taken, the forest made a copy of me. I saw her in the memories. She walked back home. She lived our life, and no one knew. Ahil staggered backward. No, that's impossible. Zarya cried harder. Bye, please. Zarya cried harder. Bye, please. The Zarya you grew up with, the Zarya you knew all these years, might not have been me. The forest roared triumphantly, feeding on his shock. Ahil tore himself away from the paralyzing fear. No, I don't care who you were or are. You're my Zarya now, and I'm getting you out. He lifted her again, but the path ahead suddenly sealed shut with black roots. The trees whispered like 1,000 hissing voices. You cannot leave. The monster rose behind them, towering over everything. Zarya's hands turned cold. Her voice softened. Bye. I'm changing. Ahil held her tighter. No, not now. Not ever. Zarya's eyes flickered between black and normal, her humanity slipping like sand through fingers. Ahil, she whispered, if I turn into one of them, you must... He covered her mouth. No, don't say it. But the forest finished her sentence with a whisper that crawled through the leaves. You must end her. A thunderous silence fell. Ahil's heart shattered. The monster stretched its colossal hand towards them. Zarya sobbed into his shoulder. Ahil, what do we do? Ahil slowly stood up, turning towards the monster, eyes blazing with the same determination he had when he entered the forest. He whispered, We don't run anymore. The forest stiffened. The monster paused. Zarya looked up in confusion and fear. Ahil clenched his fists. We fight. The forest howled in fury, and from behind, deep within the darkness, a familiar voice whispered, Then you will need me. The lantern girl stepped out of the shadows, eyes glowing white, her body cracked with light. She looked at Ahil and Zarya with a sad smile. It's time you learned what Duskwood really is.